Good morning, dear children. Let's learn the next lesson, that is 11th lesson, verbs, active and passive voice. I hope that you must have learned it in your previous classes. Still, we will once again revise it. Okay, children, what is a voice? It's a form a verb takes to indicate whether the subject of the verb performs or receives the action. Okay, there are two types of voice called active voice and passive voice. Most of the sentence in which we use are having active voice. The verb will have active voice. Okay, we'll see what is the difference between this active voice and passive voice and its structures, and how can you change this active voice into passive voice and passive voice into active voice. But first we will learn means we are able to change all sorts of sentences into passive voice. For example, statements, questions, WH questions, then commands, all these can be converted to passive voice. Today we will learn in this only the statement. How can a statement can be converted to passive voice? One thing I have to tell you is that in our text there is only two types of sentences, that is statements and questions. How to change these two into passive voice. So we'll be concentrating on that, and when we get more classes, physical classes, we'll learn the rest of it. Look at these sentences. The dog jumped onto the boy. Okay, in order to know what is an active voice and whether it's able to be converted to passive voice, you must know the structure of a sentence. Okay, children, already we have learned transitive and intransitive verbs. The verbs which are transitive only can be converted to passive voice. That means there should be an object for the verb, then only it could be converted to passive voice. For example, the dog jumped onto the boy. Let's analyze the structure. The dog, subject, jumped, verb, jumped onto, it comes together, the boy, that is object. Christy will give a book report to the class. Okay, Christy, subject, will give, verb, a book report, object. How can you find object? Already we have learned. Ask the question to the verb, what or whom. If you get the answer, there is object in the sentence. Okay, so if the verb is transmitting to an object, then only the verb could be or can be converted to passive voice. So you must understand the structure, and you have to find out subject, verb and object. Only for such structures the passive voice is possible. There are many sentences in English which do not have object. Object is not a must in a sentence. So there are many sentences in English for which there is no object. So children, first you analyze the structure of the sentence, and then we will be able to convert active voice into passive voice. Let's see the reasons to use the active voice. In most of the writings we will see active voice. When we use it in regular conversations, we use active voice. What's the reason behind it? Because it's more clear or more direct than using passive voice. See these examples. The waiter dropped the tray of food. That is active voice. It is converted into passive here. The tray of food was dropped by the waiter. Okay, and you see the presentation of passive voice is more indirect than the waiter dropped the tray of food. So, in order to be more clear, it's better to use active voice. The second use or reasons to use is that the active voice is less awkward and clearly states relationship between subject and action. See this example. Your request for funding has been denied by the review committee. The review committee denied your request for funding. So, the first one will be felt a little awkward or it may not be very clear. That is why, in order to understand it clearly, we use active voice. When to use passive voice? That means passive voice should be used in some places, even if it is not direct or if it is not clear. In certain places it will be used, it should be used. Okay, some rules are given here, or some when it should be used. Use passive voice when you do not know or do not want to reveal the performer of an action. For example, you imagine that some thing from your home is stolen. Okay, and you definitely will be telling, my watch has been stolen. Okay, because you may not know the object or sometimes subject. You may not know the subject or you do not want to reveal who it is. So you use passive voice there. Another use is that use passive voice when you want to emphasize the receiver of an action. That means more than the subject or the doer of the action. When you want to emphasize the receiver of action, you must use passive voice. Okay, you know, subject is the doer of the action and object is the receiver of an action. Let's analyze the structure or the form of passive voice. When you form a passive voice, double verb is needed. Double verb in the sense that one auxiliary verb and another main verb. You see, in simple present and simple past we do not use auxiliaries, but in passive voice, even in simple present and simple past we use these auxiliaries. Okay, that means there must be one be forms of verbs. Be forms, you know, is, am or are, was, were, been, being, etc. All these are be forms of verbs, and always the passive form of verb will be in V3 form or past participle form or the third form of the verb. You see this sentence, John baked the bread. The bread, you see, this is simple past. Here the bread, and after that be form is used since it is simple past, that is was baked by John. Okay, and normally was will be used with a continuous tense, but here you see the structure of it, was plus V3. If it was continuous tense, definitely it must be was plus ing form. Here there is no ing form, but verb 3 is used there. So that when you see the structure, you can understand whether it is passive or active voice. Children, I told you, you must use auxiliary verbs along with passive voice. So, these be forms must be there in the sentences when you convert into passive. Am, is or are, was, were, be, being and been. All these be forms, any one of it will be there in all the tenses. Okay, so please be thorough with these be forms so that it will be easy for you to convert. Children, please remember the structures or the form of passive voice. When you convert into passive voice, in each tenses you have to apply these forms. Okay, simple present tense, there is no auxiliary. in the active voice. So we use is, am or are along with verb 3. Please remember, all the passive voice will follow verb 3 only. Auxiliary verb for simple present tense is, am or are. Okay, and simple past tense, there is no auxiliary in the active voice. There we use was or were along with verb 3. Simple future tense, will or shall plus be. And all the models can be, could be, might be, may be, must be. All these will be used in all the models. Then continuous present. Present continuous. Already is, am or are is using in simple present tense. So there must be some change for continuous. So along with is, am or are, being is used in order to make it sure that the sentence is continuous sentence. Okay, so past continuous will follow was or were plus being plus V3. Some tenses do not have passive voice, or cannot convert some tenses into passive voice. For example, continuous future. Future continuous does not have its passive voice. Present perfect tense has or have plus been is added along with verb 3. Actually, this been is used in perfect continuous tense. Okay, and here been is used in perfect tenses, and past perfect had been, future perfect will or shall plus been, and continuous perfect present or present perfect continuous, past perfect continuous and future perfect continuous do not have its passive form. So which are the tenses which do not have passive form? Future continuous, then all the perfect continuous tenses. Okay, children, please remember, all the sentences will be following verb 3, and all the sentences will have be forms along with verb 3, and for simple present is, am or are as be form, past was or were, future be. Okay, and present continuous is, am or are plus being, and past continuous was or were plus being, and future continuous do not have its passive form. And perfect tenses have or has plus been, and past had been, future will or shall plus have been. Okay, please remember the structure of it, children. Children, when you convert into passive voice, there are certain changes with the persons. When I comes in the position of object, it will become me. For example, I gave him a pen. Okay, so when you convert into passive voice, a pen was given by me. It's not I when you use in the object position. There is a change when these subjects used in the object position. So we becomes us, you becomes you, he becomes him, she becomes her, it remains as it, they becomes them. These are the changes when you convert into passive voice. So please remember the forms as well as the changing of the subject into object. So let's take an example. For example, the sentence is, he kicks me. That is a sentence. He kicks me, that is simple present. When it is changed into passive voice, simple present will be used using be form, that is, am or are. So I am kicked by him. He kicks me, I am kicked by him. Or if it is he kicks them, they are kicked by him. Or he is kicked by him, or she is kicked by him. Okay, and when we change into simple past, that means he kicked her. She was kicked by him. Okay, and that is present continuous. He is kicking her. She is being kicked by him. And perfect, present perfect, he has kicked her. That is, he had she has been kicked by him. So been is added there. Then past continuous, he was kicking her, it will be changed into she was being kicked by him. And past perfect, he had kicked her, that will be changed into she had been kicked by him. Okay, and will be used with future, simple future. For example, he will kick her, she will be kicked by him. Or all the models follow the same thing. She can be kicked, she may be kicked, she should be kicked. Okay, and for the future perfect tense, he will have kicked by her. He will have kicked her, that will be changed into she will have been kicked by him. So this structure means already we have learned the form, and this is only an application of the form with example. Children, please remember, when we use passive form, we should use by, indicating who or what performed the action. Okay, by whom or by what, it will be given there in the passive form. Now let's discuss some sentences which will be converted from active into passive. She buys a book. See the structure: she subject, buys verb, and buys what? Buys a book. So the verb buys have an object, so it is a transitive verb. So book, what is there in the position of object will be taken first. A book, then buys only, so there is no auxiliary verb in the sentence. So what must we do? We have to use an auxiliary verb or be form. So in simple present we use is, am, or are. Since a book is singular, we use is. A book is, always the verb form is with 3, bought. Okay, buy is changed into bought, by her. Okay, she will change into her when it comes into position of object. See this example: Leela Ben will ride the bike. Which tense is this? Simple future. Okay, so first we will take the object into the place of subject. The bike comes in the position of subject. Okay, will ride, always the verb form is V3, that is ridden, and will, and in the future tense we use be. Okay, will be ridden by Leela Ben. He wrote a letter. Which tense is this? Simple past. Okay, first you see the verb, so you have to make the changes there. Then you can just change the position of subject into object and object into subject. Okay, first you have to remember in your mind how to change the verb into passive. What's the verb here? Wrote, verb 2. With the verb 2, what auxiliary we must use? Was or were. So since it is singular, letter is singular, a letter was written by him. See this next example: Julie had sung a song. Okay, had sung a song. Had sung, which tense is that? Past perfect. So what must be used with? Had been. Been must be used with past perfect. Okay, so first we take object in the position of subject. A song had been sung by July or Julie. Okay, next sentence. They will take tea. Which tense is this? Future simple. Simple future. Will take. So what must be added with will take? Will be taken. Okay, so verb always we use verb 3. So we'll use object in the position of subject. Tea will be taken by. They will change into them. Okay. Children, we were learning how to convert an active voice into passive voice. Now let's try to change some of the passive voice into active voice. So whatever the changes have been made will be changed back. That's the only change. Means object will take in the position of subject. Okay, in such a way. So verb you first identify, and from which tense it is, you just identify the verb so that it will be easy. Okay, first one, the statue is being visited by hundreds of tourists every year. Okay, and what we must identify, statue must be object. Okay, is being visited. So what must be the tense used there? Being is there. So ing form, continuous form is there. Is that is present tense. That is why is used. So present continuous tense is used here. Okay, so how can we convert into active voice? Take by whom first. Okay, sorry, by subject. Okay, so what is that? The tourist. Hundreds of tourists are visiting the statue every year. Hundreds of tourists are visiting the statue every year. So we have changed it back. Next example, my books were stolen by someone yesterday. Okay, so what is the verb used there? Were stolen. Were stolen, from that we understood that must be simple past, because there is no other being or been is not used there. So simple past. Okay, so were stolen, simple past. So what will be the simple past form of were stolen? Stole. So first we will take subject. Someone stole my books yesterday. Were stolen is changed back into stole. Someone stole my books yesterday. Next sentence. These books had been left in the classroom by a careless student. Okay, so by first we take after word by comes. So a careless student had been left. Actually, if perfect tense only, so that is why had plus been is used there. So a careless student had left these books in the classroom. Okay, next sentence. Coffee is raised in many parts of Hawaii by plantation workers. Okay, so by whom? Plantation workers. So plantation workers is raised, that is simple present. That is why plantation workers raise coffee in many parts of Hawaii. Next sentence. The house had been broken into by someone while the owners were on vacation. So someone, by whom? Someone. So someone had been broken will be changed back into had broken. Someone had broken into the house while the owners were on vacation. Okay, children, these are the ways how to change an active voice into passive and passive voice into active. So once you identify the structure of sentence and the tense of the tense of the sentence, it is very easy to convert an active voice into passive and passive voice into active. So you have some works for today. Page number 74. Circle the doer of the action, underline the receiver of the action. That is subject and object you have to identify and do as it is directed. B. Write whether these sentences are in the active voice or passive voice. Okay, if it is active voice, you know the structure. Passive voice, always the verb form will be V3 plus a B form will be given there. Okay, so identify it. and complete the second sentence in each pair in the passive voice. Okay, and page number 78 D E, that is, one is complete these sentences using the passive form of the verb, and another one is change these sentences from active to passive voice. And page number 79, change these sentences from passive voice to active voice. Okay, then up to there you please do the exercise. Okay, so now we wind up. Thank you.